Hello and welcome to a very special episode. We are on location at Studio Place in Brentwood, Los Angeles. And my guest today is someone that I have been following on TikTok for quite a while, and she's one of my favorite creators, Julia Davis, gorgeous 25-year-old crazy cat lady, as I love to refer to you. Welcome to Los Angeles and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be doing this interview.
Now, I joke about you being a crazy cat lady.
For sure.
But by default, you have become one.
Yes,
in the best possible way.
Yes, against my will, but I did. Yes, I think having 4 cats at 25 constitutes being a crazy cat lady.
Now, this is where the story essentially begins and where your TikTok following began. Mm-hmm. How did you end up with so many cats?
So I did not ever intend to have this many cats. As you know, watching my content, I had 1 dog and my dog had a cat because I thought she was lonely. So I fostered, she fell in love. So we foster failed our first cat. So I had my dog and a cat and was very happy with that. I got a job in Birmingham, Alabama, moved from my hometown Tuscaloosa into a very cute little house. And there was a chicken coop in the backyard, and there was a white cat hanging out in the chicken coop. I was like, oh, how fun. It just must be a stray or someone's pet. And he kept hanging around, and I talked to the neighbors, and they said that he was the previous tenant's cat. When they moved, they just left him behind. So my heart shattered into a million pieces, and I thought, well, it was his house before mine, so I guess he's here to stay. And then a couple days later, another cat showed up, same kind of deal, full grown adult, abandoned, in bad shape. But I thought he had an owner. Turns out not to be the case. So 1 cat became 3 cats. And then I found 2 kittens under my shed a couple of weeks later. So 3 cats became 5 cats. And I thought, okay, this is getting way out of hand. I don't know what I put into the universe to make this happen, but out of hand. And my parents fell in love with one of the kittens from under the shed. So they took 1, I kept the other. And that's how I ended up with 4 cats at a very summarized version of the story.
And the journey of your parents falling in love with the cat or the kittens is a whole separate thing. But your dad has a special relationship with little Sady.
Yes. So the 2 kittens under the shed were feral. The 2 adults were very sweet, very kind, but the 2 kittens were right around 8 weeks, which is the cusp of when you can socialize a feral cat. And they were very scared. You could tell. I mean, they were just living in fight or flight. It was a boy and a girl, and the little boy made a lot of progress really quickly, and the girl made no progress for probably 3 weeks. And I thought, oh, man, she's just going to be feral forever. She's going to have to be adopted by a family that's going to know she's going to live under their couch, and she's happy under there, but she's not going to want to be with you. Well, my dad is the biggest sucker on the face of the planet and is an animal lover. And he told me, she just needs an advocate, Julia. She just needs someone to be in her corner. And I said, what she needs is a Xanax, but whatever you need. So he came over to the house and he started holding her and loving on her. And it was against her will, but she warmed up to him in a way that no one else could get her to be comfortable. And to this day, she doesn't give anyone else the time of day other than my dad. She is attached to him. He's attached to her. They are thick as thieves, 2 peas in a pod. He sleeps on top of her every night, and they're just the best of friends.
He sleeps on top of her, or she sleeps on top of him?
She sleeps on top of him. She's tiny. She's probably 7 pounds. She's a petite princess, we call her.
Oh, she's just so beautiful, and it's been lovely watching the journey of that unfold, because I know as a viewer I was stressed about where or how she was going to fit in.
Yeah.
And I was so happy when I saw that.
Yeah.
Dadvocate,
as he's been called.
Dadvocate.
Yep.
When he came through. So in your house, you have your beautiful girl Remy, who is your dog, but all of the cats are men.
Yes. All the men. They're all boys. All men, which is funny because I always grew up with girl cats. I never had a boy cat in my life. And then Finn was the first one, and now I have 4.
And what is it like trying to date when you have 4 cats and a dog at home?
Most people are very on board with the dog. You find a lot of cat lovers, and I've been on a few first dates where we kind of get into like, oh, what do you do in your free time? And do you have any animals? And I say, oh, I have a few cats. And they go, well, how many is a few? And I say 4. And without fail, they all go like that. I was like, listen, I can explain. Like, I didn't mean to have 4 cats. I feel like that makes it better. And they're kind of my livelihood. And it's become my mission to help cats in general. And then they're like, oh, okay. And some of them message me back again and some of them don't. And if they're not on board with it, I know they're not a good one. Red flag if they can't get on board with all the cats.
Well, I think anyone that's funny about animals, red flag right there. And just to make you feel better, I grew up in a house with 5 cats and a dog. So
okay, I'm almost there.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Would you be open to having any more? Because you do foster.
I do foster, and I've said my coop is full. I try to remember, a cat is a 10 to 20 year commitment, and I already have 4 and a dog. My dog had a traumatic injury before I adopted her, and we've been very fortunate that she hasn't had any health issues arise from that. And the first year was rough, but in the 2 years since then. But I don't know what it's going to be like in 10 years when she's 15 or 14. And 2 of my cats have FIV, and that could present in different health ways in the future. And I don't want to overextend my finances. I want to make sure I can properly care for all the animals that I have, and I already have 5. And if I do meet someone that happens to have animals, I don't want us to have a zoo if we have to combine our flock. So I try to keep that in mind. But I do know myself, and if I came across a cat with any type of ailment, I would really struggle to let them go. I'm really attracted to the wounded birds of the world. But luckily, I haven't foster failed any yet, and there have been 11 fosters that have come through my house this year, and I've said goodbye and cried when they left to all of them. But I feel like that's what you're supposed to do. I have to remember that fostering, we just have them for this little bit of time, and I think of it as caring for someone else's cat. It's not even a possibility they can be my cat, which makes it a little easier to let them go.
You mentioned before that these cats have become your livelihood. So you had a massive life change.
I did.
At the end of last year.
I did.
And as a result of that, you've just sort of embraced social media, TikTok, and everything that comes with it. How has that change been for you?
It's been a really positive change, aside from the little bit of uncertainty. So I finished up my master's degree last year in advertising public relations, landed a full-time job at a very large institution, thought I would work 30 years there and then retire. And it ended up not being quite what I was anticipating. But I had a monthly paycheck, and it was so awesome. And I had health insurance. These are things that are super exciting in adult life. And at the same time that I got that job, TikTok was starting to take off with all this cat stuff. And I never had the opportunity or time to really put in the effort to monetize. That was never my goal in the first place. I mean, I got a master's degree to make money doing PR. So that was never my goal. But then when my job was eliminated at the end of the last calendar year, like you said, I was thinking to myself, well, I can either go for another job in PR, or I could build on this momentum we have on TikTok and see what I can make of it. And if I make nothing, at least I tried. I will always go back to PR, or I could always go back to PR. As long as people are saying dumb things on the internet, I will always have a job in public relations. So I can always go back to that, and I'll always have my degree, but we won't always have this momentum. And it's been a really awesome change. But the things that it has given me that I did not have in my full-time job in public relations is time and time freedom. I get to spend a lot more time with my friends, my nieces and nephews, and I get to do things that I want to do, like foster. I wouldn't have time to foster if I was still working my full-time job. I also wouldn't get to fundraise for nonprofits the way I do. It takes a lot of time, and I still get to use my degrees. I actually offer my public relations services pro bono to some nonprofits, which is great. I can still use my degree for good, and it allows making money on social media allows me to offer my services to people who may not be able to afford it otherwise.
And you have become an incredible voice for adopting, fostering, rescuing, and you've done a lot of work to get the community, the Coop Kitty community that you created, to help all these drives. So to help the shelters and the rescues that you have there in Alabama by setting up Amazon wish lists and things like that. And you've also raised funds to help people get vet care where they wouldn't have been able to afford it. I can't imagine just how rewarding that whole process is.
It's so rewarding, and it's something I've always wanted to do, is to help other people. And in college and grad school, I always wanted to help other people. And one of the ways that you can help people is with money. Well, as a college student with very little spare money to give, I felt like there was nothing much I could really do. And then I found this community of people who have money to give, and I don't think they really knew where to give it. And in the beginning, when people were sending us thousands of dollars and lots of toys and food for vet bills and for the cats, I was almost confused as why are people so generous and so kind? But there are so many generous people out there, and I think they just want to trust the person that they're giving to. And people have told me that I'm a trustworthy person and that people trust me on TikTok, which is one of the biggest compliments I think I could get. And it's one of the most rewarding things I've been able to do with my platform. If I was going to have a platform, I'd want it to be used for good and to help other people and animals and the voiceless.
So you've got this incredible part of the community that is so giving and supporting, and I think the level of transparency that you have on your platform in terms of showing what donations are coming in. You show that you make videos about the days where you go and deliver all of the goods that have been donated to people. You give updates about the vet bills that have been paid and how you're spending that money. But there's another side to social media, which is, I don't think we will ever have social media without trolls.
For sure.
And I watch your content, and it's so wholesome and so, I guess, filling for the soul. But have you had to deal with much in terms of trolls and negative comments?
You know, I think on the scale of what people deal with in terms of trolls, I've been very fortunate. I also don't put up with it. I'm very lenient with that block button. I've gotten much more lax with it. And if someone's being a true turd, I will just screenshot it. It goes into screenshots of shame folder on my phone, and I block them. But I've had a few that have been really, really nasty. But I think you're going to find that no matter what niche you're in or what you're doing, no matter what you're doing, that somebody is going to have something to say. And I think towards the beginning, I struggled with that a little bit more. And I went from having not a lot of people knowing who I was or looking at me to hundreds, thousands of people looking at my face every single day, which I try not to think about too much because that's really, really wild. And I think, you know, no matter what I did, someone was going to have something to say. So I just had to become very confident and content with every decision I made and everything I posted. And that's what I did.
I think, because I'm someone who's dealt with trolls online for most of my adult career, and the biggest takeaway I got, and it was a breakthrough at about 5 in the morning one day after I'd come off a reality show, and I was stupidly reading what people were saying about me, so it wasn't even necessarily directed at me. And I finally realized it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them and the place that they are in. But with that being said, we are all human, and
we are.
These comments affect us all. And
it does.
I think people will find fault with anything if they are miserable.
Yes, and we can lie, and I've seen other content creators say it doesn't bother me, and then I saw a big creator I follow say it bothers me, and there are some that stick out in my mind, and I'm like, absolutely, there are some comments that stick out in my mind, and I think about them every now and again. But I think that's just human. Like, we're humans, and I know you're a people pleaser, I'm a people pleaser. So as a people pleaser, it's hard to know that there's someone out there that just truly thinks you're the worst, or that you're awful, or that you're doing something terrible. But for every one of those people with a not great attitude who has their own stuff going on, there's 1,000 people who are amazing and incredible and support the drives that we do and donating to all of these great causes. So try to focus on the good, but some days are better than others.
And So my rule is I don't react to those people. I don't let them see a reaction just because that's what they want and that's what they feed off. And if you don't give them a reaction, they generally go away because they will go and find somebody who will react. Mm-hmm. But I too have those ones that just stand out, and whether it's because they've picked the thing that secretly bothers me about myself and they've just fleshed it out, or it's a particularly nasty thing, it can just get you there.
Yeah, sure can.
It just bothers me that this is the world we live in, because like you, I try and create a really beautiful space for people to be, so that everybody can just come and have a great time.
Yeah. It's hard to think that that's the world we live in, where there are trolls, but then I'm reminded that I also live in a world where people donated $15,000 to a family that they never got to see for Christmas, and they sent $4,000 worth of goods, and people sent formula from all over the country for a baby that they never, because I never showed our sponsor family because they were in a vulnerable position, and I'm not in the business of exploiting people, especially in a vulnerable position. And I explained that to the community, and they were so wonderful anyway. And I'm very happy to live in a world where people trust and support people just on account of because.
Absolutely. And one of the other incredible things that has come out of this whole career change for you is you are about to release your very first book.
Yes, we are. And not just me, it's actually three of us. Myself and Susana Herrera Martinez are co-authors. And it is our bilingual book, English and Spanish. And then we have another incredible gal who is illustrating it, Erica Lee, from Erica Lee Art. So the three of us have put our brains together to make this happen. And this is one of the things that we thought about very early on, or I thought about very early on, and actually someone in the community commented and said, wouldn't this be a great children's book? Because it's such like a fairy tale story, moving into a house and there's a cat and we watch it transform into this fluffy cloud, and then his arch nemesis, who's actually really sweet, comes along, and it's a really sweet story and how a community comes together. And I wanted to tell that story, and my content is also extremely kid friendly. And there are a lot of people who will comment, say, my 2-year-old loves your content. I get cameo requests for 5 and under very frequently, which I think is really sweet. So I'm very excited about this book, but it's not just for the youngest in the Coop Kid community, because it's our story, and the kids who will read it, I think, will enjoy the fun story and the little life lessons in it and the beautiful illustrations, and the adults will love it because this is our story. It's our true story, and I want them to read it and think back to, I remember when that happened, and oh my gosh, is that Legs the snake in the book, and oh my gosh, there's Porch Weber, and wow, there's the Coop. So I'm very, very excited for everyone in the community to see it.
And of all the cats, I have a soft spot for Roof, because
a lot of people do.
I just love black cats. I love black animals. But you talk about transformation, and you are talking about Coop, who is full name Chicken Cooper.
Yep.
And his transformation, and he was a long-haired cat.
He was.
But the fluffiness with a little love and a little bit of good food and what have you.
It has just exploded. And when you're living it, you don't see it always kind of coming to fruition before your eyes. But I look back at old videos and I can kind of see the progression that other people probably saw that I don't see because I live with him full time. And it's just incredible. He's like double the cat that he was, and probably double the weight. But he is I've never seen a cat as fluffy as him. And he's got he's just a big tomcat, former tomcat with big old teeth and big old clodhoppers for feet. But he's so sweet.
And pantaloons.
And pantaloons. Yes, him and his pantaloons. He like runs around the house like a bunny, and his pantaloons like flap in the wind. It's so funny.
So for anyone that hasn't seen Julia's content, the pantaloons are the fluff on the back of his legs, and she refers to them as the pantaloons. And I lose it every time you talk about the pantaloons, and I will rewatch it so that I can see them running away in the other direction, because it's magical.
It's so fun. And he did not have pantaloons when I found him.
He did not.
No, he didn't.
He was quite beat up when you found him.
He was. He and Roof were both very beat up when I found them, and it turns out they were fighting with each other. They were both unfixed males, adults living outside, vying for very little food, whatever they could find. And as it turns out, the attention of lovers in the area, because there were kittens everywhere, but their skin was very torn up. They had open wounds, both of them. Their skin was just rough. And I think one of the things that allowed Coop's hair to grow was we took care of his skin and got his skin taken care of. And looking back at old videos, you just forget these things, that Roof had all these sores and scars on his head and his neck that hair has now grown over. So you really don't even see them anymore. So he just looks like a little silky prince now, but he did not look like that a year ago.
It has been such a magical journey to watch, and I feel like I've been a part of it. And I'm so grateful that while you've been visiting LA just for a few days, I was able to get you in here to the studio.
Yeah.
For those who don't already follow your journey, where can they find you? And also, where can they find the book?
Sure. So on TikTok, we are Julia_A Davis, or if you look up the Coop Kitties, will come up. On TikTok or on Instagram. On Instagram, we are the Coop Kitties, and then my personal Instagram is same as my TikTok, Julia_A Davis. The book is on Kickstarter currently, and then we'll be selling them on coopkitty.com.
That is our show today with Julia. I cannot wait for you to be back here
in April.
Yes, in April of next year. So we will come back for an update. But I would like to say a special thank you to Studio Place here in Brentwood for having us, and I will see you on the next show.